Zerubbabel, Haggai, and Zechariah. All three on one. I was going to make 3 separate videos, but it would have been repetitious. So I put these 3 in this segment for a timeline. Now, Zerubbabel is mentioned in Haggai and Zechariah quite a bit. And Haggai and Zechariah wrote their own book. Zerubbabel didn't. And so when we go through Haggai and Zechariah, the books, after we finish the timeline here of the exile to Jesus, then we'll go into Haggai and Zechariah. Now, Zerubbabel was a man, it says in Ezra 2:2, and the ones who came with Zerubbabel, Joshua and Nehemiah. So apparently he led these people out of Babylon, going back to Jerusalem. He was a tribe of Judah. He wasn't a priest. Ezra 3:2, it says, and Joshua, the son of Josedek, rose up, and his brothers, the priests, who were of Levite, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and his brothers, and built the altar of the God of Israel. Okay, so now we have these mentioning of Zerubbabel coming. Same thing here in Ezra 3:8. And then in Ezra 4:2 it says, and they approached to Zerubbabel and to the rulers of the families and said to them, now these are Sanballat and Tobiah, the people of the land that were not Jews, who were against the Jews coming back and rebuilding Jerusalem, just as there is today in Israel with the Palestinians who seen the Jews come back and rebuilding Jerusalem and Israel and fighting them tooth and nail since 1948. And right now, terrible conflagration going on with the inhabitants, Palestinians of the Gaza Strip. And then Israel is being attacked by Hezbollah, Arabs up in Lebanon, and then the Palestinians that were pushed into the West Bank, west of the Jordan River, fairly close to Jerusalem, and Israel troops are now going into the West Bank and fighting there. We don't know what all is going to happen, but this is December the 14th of 2023. So these people wanted to build with Zerubbabel, and Joshua said to them, it is not for us and to you to build a house to our God. So they need to be separate. And then in Ezra 5:2 it says, and then rose up Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Joshua son of Josedek, and they began to build the house of God in Jerusalem. And then in Nehemiah goes through the same thing of these people coming back to Israel from Babylon, and same thing here in Nehemiah 12:1. And then in Nehemiah 12:27 it says, and all Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah were giving portions or money for the singers and the gatekeepers. Now, Zerubbabel, as I mentioned, is going to be heavily mentioned in Haggai and Zechariah, but without going in further into that, we need to mention that Zerubbabel is mentioned in the New Testament. In Matthew 1:13, the genealogy of Jesus, the same as Luke 3:27 of the genealogy of Jesus, both genealogies through Jesus. But there's a little difference. It says in Matthew, and Salathiel engendered Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel engendered Aviud. But now in 3:27 of Luke, it says, the son of Rasa, the son of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel. So Shealtiel goes together, Zerubbabel, but this Rasa and Abiud don't. Now, why is there a difference between the two genealogies? Julius Africanus mentions, related by Eusebius, the church historian around the time of Constantine the Great, how when in Israel, when a man didn't have children, then his brother is to take the wife of the man who died without a child and raise a child to that man. So that child would be in the lineage actually of the man of the man who was not his true father, but the one that of the brother. And so therefore you have these two lineages. Some people say one's of Mary and one's of Joseph. That's not the case at all. They both state they're of Joseph. And then it continues with Haggai, the prophet. Now he has his own book, as I mentioned. It says in Ezra 5:1, and Haggai, the prophet, prophesied, and Zechariah, who will go in next, the son of Iddo, a prophecy over the Jews in Judah and in Jerusalem, in the name of the God of Israel over them. And then in 6:14, it says, and the elders of the Jews built and prospered at the prophecy of Haggai the prophet, and Zechariah, son of Iddo. We'll find out what these prophecies are when we get to those two books. Psalm 138 title, it says, a psalm to David of Haggai and Zechariah. You can read that psalm, whether or not they did write this or not. It says that a psalm attributed to David of Haggai and Zechariah. And same thing in Psalms 146 and 148, which starts off with a hallelujah. Then Haggai says in the first verse of his book, in the second year of Darius. So he's writing this way late in the timeline, the last king before Artaxerxes. In the 6th month, the day 1 of the month, came the word of the Lord by the hand of Haggai the prophet, saying, say to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, from out of the tribe of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Josedek, the great priest. And we'll go into that when we get into Haggai. Next is Zechariah. Now, this is interesting here because we need to look at the Greek words here. The Greek words, here it is Zerubbabel. It's not two B's, but one Vita. And then Haggai, Ageos, is the Greek. And these names can change by the declension, if it's a nominative or genitive, dative, accusative, and so forth. Need to go in our grammar, which is free to download, learn a little about the Greek grammar. But now we see Zacharias. Zechariah is called in the King James, but also Zacharias. They gave him, again, two different names, just as they did with Joshua. They like to confuse us, the writers, the translators of the King James Version. Why anybody wants to follow the King James Version today, I don't know. They think, well, they say it's the Textus Receptus. It's not from the Westcott and the Hort, if you're into textual criticism, but the Apostolic Bible goes along with the Textus Receptus, because it goes along through the Complutensian Polyglot and the Aldine, which the Textus Receptus used for the text of Stephanus and Stephan's text. I think it's 1511. And they used the Complutensian and the Aldine, and that was called the received text or the majority text, which the Apostolic Bible is almost identical to those texts that were behind the King James. But the King James translators didn't go to the Greek Old Testament. They went to the Hebrew, which made it even more complicated. But here we're going into the Zechariah. There's other Zechariah. There was a son of King Jeroboam II. In 2 Kings 15:11, it mentions that. Then there is a gatekeeper, 1 Chronicles 9:21, a singer, 1 Chronicles 15:20. And then in Luke 1:5, it talks about Zechariah. So instead of calling him Zechariah, like they did in the Old Testament, they give him a different name. They call him Zacharias, who was the father of John the Baptist, or John the Immerser, if you will, and that's in Luke 1:5. Then in Isaiah, we see an interesting verse. It says, and appoint to me witnesses of trustworthy men, Uriah the priest and Zechariah son of Berechiah. And then, so now is this Zechariah the same as the Zechariah that we're going through? No. And Jesus mentions this Zechariah in a few places in Matthew 23:35, and he says, so that should come upon you all just blood having been poured out upon the earth, from the blood of Abel the just one into the blood of Zechariah son of Berechiah. So this was Isaiah way before the Zechariah that we are in currently, the book of Zechariah, not the same. And same thing in Luke 11:51, it says the same thing about from the blood of Abel, the just one, into the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, and you can check those out. Now, and Zechariah is mentioned in Ezra 5:1, and Haggai the prophet prophesied in Zechariah, the son of Iddo, a prophecy over the Jews in Judah. So now we know that Zechariah is the son of Iddo. And in Jerusalem, and in the name of the God of Israel over them. And then in 6:14 it continues, and the elders of the Jews built and prospered at the prophecy of Haggai the prophet, and Zechariah son of Iddo. In Zechariah 1:1, the 8th month of the 2nd year of Darius came to pass the word of the Lord to Zechariah the son of Iddo the prophet. And 7:1, I'm duplicating it right down here. 7:1, and it came to pass in the 4th year of Darius the king, the word of the Lord came to Zechariah the 4th and the 9th month, which is Chislev. So now we see Zechariah at the same time as all these others, Haggai and Ezra, Nehemiah, Zerubbabel, and Joshua. Then again in Psalms 38 and 146 and 148, it mentions of Haggai and Zechariah. So this is the end of these three people in the timeline. And our next video, as I mentioned, will be from Artaxerxes to Herod, a long period of time, 400 years or so, 350, 400 years. So till the next time, God bless.